Hello and welcome to News from the Links. Today I'm going to be speaking about the ditch systems on the golf course. It seems a sensible time to talk about the ditches and the water after the last couple of weeks of heavy rain. Last week commencing the 18th of January, we received 49 millimetres of rain in 48 hours. Now, put that into perspective, January is usually quite a wet month, but January in Southport, statistically speaking, between 70 and 90 millimetres per month. We received nearly 50 in 2 days, so that meant the course was wet. It was very wet. It was flooded. 17th fairway was flooded. You couldn't get to the green on 17. The 14th by the Widows was completely underwater, and as you'd expect, the marsh side of the course was completely underwater. The ditches were full. Now, the positive thing is now, a week later, our ditches have dropped 3 foot in places. It's at a very healthy level. There are very few puddles on the course. There are more puddles on the clubhouse side of the golf course than there are on the marsh side of the golf course, which shows us that our ditch system is working well. We're pushing water off in the right places, and we are managing rainfall well. It's all moving. It's moving off the course. Now we can do this by looking at this map. All the red arrows are the way the water flows. So the black dots, they're the pumps. We have a pump here this is the corner Stanley playing field. 5th hole here, Stanley playing field here. This pump is at the corner of Marshside Road. It is run by the council. It has to be left on, because if it's not left on, these houses will flood with the amount of water that's moving through. So that's a positive. It's not run by the Environment Agency. They don't have to cut costs and not switch it on and switch it on and off when they feel like it. It has to be on all the time, which is very positive when we're pushing the amount of water we have been recently off the golf course. The other black dot over here behind the 11th green is our own pumping station. Inside you see a little panel box here. Next to the panel box is a cover. Below that cover there's 2 pumps, 2 5.5 kilowatt pumps. They pump a huge amount of water off the golf course. Now, one pump at full capacity running this length of pipe will pump 90 cubic meters an hour off the golf course. So basically, obviously there's 2 pumps in there, so they can do 180 cubic meters of water per hour pumping off the golf course. That's 180,000 litres of water every hour, and when it's in flood mode, can pump off. Now, the pumps are only as good as the ditches. Ditches are working well at the moment. It's pleasing to see that the ditches as of yesterday and today are 3 foot lower than they were at the height of the storm last week. So the pumps are working well. To look at our ditch system, we've got 1900 linear metres of managed ditch. The blue lines are the managed ditch. So we've got 1900 metres. That's 1.4 miles, just over 1.4 miles. So these ditches have to run. The pump pull the water from the ditches. So if we start up at the 12th green, the ditch that runs alongside the red tee and then across the 13th fairway comes out between the 13th green and the 12th tees. So the ditch comes along there and it joins up to this long ditch here that runs alongside the track. Water collected at the end of this track here comes off of Fleetwood Road and it comes off of Fleetwood Hall. And then it runs down, it collects the water, joins up with the water from the 9th coming off. The 9th is joined by the ditch running alongside the practice ground in the 8th. This is also joined by the small ditch in front of the 8th. We've culverted some of that, and then the new ditch, and then up to the practice ground crossover. So all these ditches are connected and it all end up at the pumps. The pumps then pump it into a holding chamber. If you walk just off the path, the 12T, you'll see a concrete block, like a pillbox. The water blasts out of that into a holding pond. Now, we didn't want the water to blast straight into the ditch because we're doing detrimental damage to the ditch banks if we do that. So a little holding pond is great just to catch water and it steadily flows out whilst keeping the course drainage ditches down. So this back ditch, what we call the back ditch, is between the 6th hole and the 12th hole. It runs along and then enters the 5th pond. Now this ditch is, we're told, one of the most heavily populated ditches in the north of England for waterfalls. Waterfalls are a protected species, and it's nice that we've got an area of outstanding ecological benefit which holds the waterfalls. And if you're ever walking along here, you often see little waterfalls. They're quite nice little creatures. But anyway, the yellow lines are all culverts. So this shows that, for example, the 7th hole, 7th pond goes into a small ditch here and then enters a culvert. The culvert goes underneath the 7th fairway, or the start of the 7th fairway in front of the 7th tees, and comes out into the back ditch. The 5th pond is obviously connected to the culvert that goes underneath the 5th fairway and then out to Stanley. The 12th stroke 13th pond has got an overflow on it, so we can lower the level of that by going into the overflow, come into this ditch, and that keeps the 12th pond at a good level. Just to touch on drainage slightly, we will go into much more detail of that soon. The 12th pond has all the outlets for the drains that have been put in. There's 7 drain lines that come into the pond. Now they don't work to full potential if the pond is high. So by having this overflow, we can lower the pond. By lowering the pond, the drains work, but we have to have the ditches low because the outfall into this ditch won't work if the ditches are high. So everything connected to the pumps, as long as we can lower everything, we can manage all out, including the 8th pond down here. We've got a couple of pipes in here that when the 8th pond gets too high, it goes into the bit that we've recently culverted ourselves, a 9-inch pipe in here to catch the water from there. So we're lowering it. The only water on the course that isn't connected to the ponds on the Mar side is a small pond in front of the 10th. And that doesn't get high enough to be of any concern, but that's the only bit that we can't manage and look after to connect it to the pumps. The pumps are working really well. I'm really happy with the height of the water. It's moving great. The 5th is moving, so the pond's dropped because Stanley is clear. All the ditches are running to almost full capacity. They're running well. Had lockdown not been happening, we would have opened yesterday, been Monday, and that's really good. I mean, speaking to people last week, they were telling me they thought it'd be months before the puddles would disappear, but 4 dry days, well, 3 dry days with a bit of hail and snow at the weekend, and the water's gone. The course would be open again, and that's the pumps. That's how good the pumps in the ditch system is now. Stanley, as I said, has been cleared out. It's running really well. All our pumps, ditches are running as they should. There's no concerns about the ditches. So hopefully that explains a bit. It shows you where the ditches are. It shows you where they move. It shows you that we know they're running. We check them regularly. We check the culverts regularly to make sure that everything's moving as it should. You can usually tell if something's not working because the water's high. And by just checking these, cleaning them out, we do it. Hopefully, when this lockdown's over, we can do an evening walk, and we can walk the ditches. We can do a wee tour of the pumping chambers. We can walk out and you can see where the water goes. And I'm pleased with the way the ditches and the pumps and everything have been working recently. They're certainly doing the job they should. Finally, Just a few wee facts and figures what I've talked about. The average January rainfall is 70 to 90 mil. We received nearly 50 in 48 hours. The managed ditches that we have are over 900 metres, that's 1.2 miles. Plus the 375 of Stanley takes it up to about 1.4 miles. All the ponds are connected to the pumps via culverts, which allows us to monitor the level and check and change the level of the ponds. A pumping chamber consists of two 5.5 kilowatt pumps, which can move 90 cubic metres per hour. And finally, Stanley Field Pump is run by Sefton Council. They don't turn it off. It can't be turned off apart from for obvious maintenance, because it will flood the local housing estate. So that's the end of this presentation. If you want to get in touch, please do so. Ask any questions you like. My email address is coursemanager@heskethgolfclub.co.uk. My phone number and Twitter references and Facebook are all on the website. Thank you for listening. I hope you're all well and safe, and I hope to see you on the golf course again soon in some sunny weather. Thank you.